She lived her life like Frank Sinatra. She did it her way. I wanted to sing, but for there are times when I knew I bit off more than I can chew, and thought of it and chew it up and spit it out. And we all know the rest of that. Okay, so we are here today not to be entertained by my singing, thank God I didn't sing, but to bathe in the glory of the Honorable Shirley Chisholm's awesome accomplishments and to be absorbed with her courage. Perhaps we too may be able to reside in our thought processes as being unbought and unbossed, a state of mind and consciousness that would move us forward. But likewise, we too will be strengthened to determine our future and live with dignity, fighting for in these devastating times. So, since we run things, our determination to energize this room, spiritualize it, and make sure the walls of this auditorium epitomize the woman that we are honoring and shadowing today. Without any further ado, we will call our Dr. Gladwin Sanford to come forward and give us our prayer. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Dr. Una Clark in our midst. Thank you.
Praise the Lord. Let's stand. Praise the Lord. As Bishop just said, and as a quote from our dear Shirley Chisholm, we don't make progress by standing on the sideline, whimpering and complaining. You make progress by implementing things. So, Father in heaven, this morning we come, we give you the praise, we give you the thanks that is due to your name. You are mighty God this morning. We can say that you are awesome, and we are so thankful that we can come. We don't have to come and complain, but we are coming to thank you, oh God, that we can gather together, Lord, as a group, and we can implement things, oh God, that would not only make us, but make our community safe, our community better, oh God. Our generations down to the third and fourth generation better, Lord. So we give you the praise and we give you the thanks this morning, oh God, that you have enabled us to come here this morning, oh God, to sit and learn from each other, to hear. And because we know that together we become stronger, Lord. We thank you another time, oh God, because you have watched over us and you have protected us. You have provided for us, oh God, and we are grateful. So we come to say, Lord, you are our King of Kings. You are our Lord of Lords. You are Jehovah Jireh. You are our bright and morning star. You are our lily of the valley, and we thank you this morning. We thank you for wisdom. We thank you for understanding. We thank you for being here with us. We pray that something that we hear from today will help us along the way to strengthen each other, to encourage each other, and that one day we can say that by sitting in that room a few years ago on the 7th anniversary of Shirley Chisholm, I learned that I could be better. I learned that I can do better. I learned that I can implement things. So we bless you this morning. We praise you. And we pray, oh God, that each and every one here, oh God, will continue to bask in your love and in your blessings, and we give you all the praise. We give you all the thanks. We look to you. We look to the hills from whence cometh our help this morning, and we thank you again in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. I want to say that the church say amen. Amen. There you go. Amen. Now that we have blessed these walls, I am just asking that this will be a revival of our strength, revival of our hope, revival of our dreams, revival of our fortitude, of our patience, our tolerance, revival of our love. My hope is that this 7th Shirley Chisholm ceremony and presentation will touch our hearts, teach us how to be brave, challenge us to dream big, encourage ourselves with issues that will reform our community and our society, teach us how to wake up, work hard, and never give up. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Dr. Maria Longori, you're on for your introduction of our dean. Live and direct. Isn't that fake news? This is real news. Live and direct.
Good morning. Good morning. I want to say I am so happy to be here with you all this morning. And I want to welcome you to Medgar Evers College. I want to welcome you to the Shirley Chisholm Conference, though I know most of you have probably been to more than I have. This is my second, though. The first one was before it really got hooked up with the CRC. There was the Shirley Chisholm Conference, I think it was in 2008, at Medgar Evers College in collaboration with Brooklyn College. And it was around the same time. It was called the Shirley Chisholm Conference. It wasn't this one. But it was a conference that was started out as the Shirley Chisholm project that was being done with Brooklyn College. And under that project, I taught a course on Shirley Chisholm here at Medgar. And although I always had respect for her, it was doing that I really fell in love with her. So that's why being at this conference, being done in her honor, means so much. So again, I just wanted to welcome. As you were told, this is I am the new interim executive director, and it's something that I was very honored to be asked to do. I worked with Dr. Irish and Dr. Stewart for a long time in a different venue as part of their department in social behavioral sciences at Medgar Evers. And I've always had their support, and I've always had their love, and I've always had their guidance. And so it's just an honor that it's really hard for me to put into words. You know, when somebody that you work with so long and so closely with, and then you're asked to do something that's been the core of their heart, right? Their work. It's a little daunting, right? A little bit, but at the same time, someone said to me this morning, "You have some large shoes to fill," and I said, "I've never attempted to fill those shoes." First, I only wear a size 8 and 9, so that's not going to work. But for me, when somebody does such good work, right, and I know it's a collective effort, right, but when work has been done to a point where you enter into the picture, and that work is so strong and stands on its own, you don't try to fill any shoes. You just kind of work with and build upon that work and expand that work. And that's what I hope to do. And so I'm looking forward to working with all of you. I'm looking forward to seeing where the center goes and to see how many more people we can touch and bring into the fold. With that, I'm going to introduce the role.
Good afternoon. So wonderful to hear the remarks by the bishop and the prayer and all of those wonderful things. I am indeed grateful to be here with you this afternoon. Yeah, I haven't been well. You know, I had an accident. I got hit by a truck, and And when the call came and they asked me, because I usually try to come to this meeting, this venue is very important to me, all the good work that has been done. I said, let me try, and if I have strength and I can move some things around, I'll be here. So I am grateful to be here. On behalf of my president, President Rudy Crew, and our provost, Augustina Oriki, and the Medgar Evers College family, I welcome you again to the 7th annual Honorable Shirley Chisholm Conference here today. The Honorable Shirley Chisholm was a leader who embodies the essence of one of my most favorite authors, Ralph Waldo Emerson. And in one of his quotes, he said, "Don't be pushed back by your problems, but be led by your dreams." Amen. Honorable Shirley Chisholm was a dreamer. She dreamed that one day this great country of ours would be led by a woman. I hold fast to that dream. And one woman that would be dedicated and committed to make life better for all citizens. Her legacy is the dreams of each of us, one by one and name by name. To advocate for better lives, not just for ourselves, but for our children and our community. Today we celebrate and continue to dream of an America, one nation under God, united. Thank you for helping to make the dream come true. Thank you to the Program Planning Committee for all the great work you've done for us to be here today. And thank you sincerely for all of you who came out to support this important event. Please enjoy the conference. Thank you. Thanks to our Dean and to our Director. And I must acknowledge that we now have Mr. Bill Howard, who is the head of the Shirley Chisholm Foundation, here with us on the dais. You may be seated. Yeah? You know, I would say that's not an applause. I think if we understood after lunch, you will see what a tremendous amount of work was being done and how magnificent inspiration Shirley has been to all of us. Again, let's give the Honorable Shirley Chisholm a round of applause. Okay, I see our Congresswoman is being led in by her staff. Yeah, our Congress lady is fabulous. You know, you belong up here, but you can sit with Mom until it's it. Mom and daughter team in the house. Give it up for both. There you go. I'd like to acknowledge my journalist that is here from Academy, Miss Lillian Charles. Woo! I want to acknowledge our photographer, Mr. Kamani Millington. Kamani, I think you might have have to walk around, you know, so you can take pictures. Hello. That's how we train them, right? Make sure he knows. And I'd like to acknowledge our president from Academy Student Body, Miss Patricia Smith. Yeah, we want to make sure we develop some Shirleys in the house. Yes. Okay, so we have, is the representative for, well, we're going to have some entertainment, I see. I told you this was live and direct. CNN has nothing over us this morning. Anna, I should let them speak? Okay. Okay, I see. All right, so is the Brooklyn Bar President Eric Adams representative here? All right. So let me move on to our Deputy Commissioner Brittany Saunders. On the behalf of our New York Human Rights Commissioner Carmen Morales, she will be speaking with us today. Give it up for
Good morning, everyone. As Bishop mentioned, my name is Brittany Saunders. I'm Deputy Commissioner for Strategic Initiatives at the City Commission on Human Rights. Thank you so much for having us this morning. I bring greetings on behalf of Carmel Morales, who is the Commissioner and Chair of the Commission on Human Rights. I also am joined today by my colleague Amber Thomas, who works with us on the team. And I want to say that what a pleasure it is to be in this room for the 7th annual Shirley Chisholm Day Conference. It's really truly inspiring and energizing to see this intergenerational gathering for what promises to be a day of really rich and powerful discussion. I was really struck by, listening to Dr. Stewart's comments earlier. He was describing the program and listening to the issues that have been identified for discussion today, because they are very much consistent with the sorts of things that we are thinking about at the Commission and in broader city government, and many of the conversations that I am part of as part of my work. So the question of gentrification, how do we deal with the challenges that it creates? The question of the census, how do we make sure that the census is a tool for empowering communities and not a tool for intimidating them or excluding them. To say a few words about the Commission itself, we are the New York City agency that enforces the New York City Human Rights Law. The New York City Human Rights Law is a broad and protective anti-discrimination law that covers discrimination in housing, in employment, in public accommodations, so businesses and other spaces that are open to members of the public. It also includes a provision prohibiting bias-based profiling by law enforcement, and another prohibiting something called discriminatory harassment, which is almost like a civil version of a hate crime. So I'm totally happy to say more to make sure we get you connected to resources and materials about more of the law. I won't spend too much time talking through it. But the other half of our work is really on educating New Yorkers about their rights and their obligations under the city human rights law. So we have a team of human rights specialists who do trainings and workshops in many different settings every day of the week. So if we can ever be a resource for you, so either if you feel you have experienced discrimination and you want to talk to someone about whether you might have a claim under our law, or if you simply think it would be helpful to have someone from our team come in and do a presentation on the human rights law and its protections for a group that you work with, please let me know. I have some cards and happy to give those out, and then you can also get in contact with us through everyone else. But thank you again. Thank you so much, and looking forward to today's discussion.
Thank you. The national anthem. Please stand. representative from the Borough President office? If not, we're going to ask Dr. Irish to bring us a few words. Yes.
Drumming took away my speech. But let me say how delighted I am to be here and to see all of you who came out to participate in today's event. I want to thank particularly Dr. Una Clark, who is the person who initiated this conference series. I think we're about number 7 now. Yes. And she has stood at the Caribbean Research Center over the years. I came and found her there, and she's still here with us.
Yes, that's right.
So, some will come and some will go, but she stands firm. Very happy to see our Congresswoman and all of you persons of the days, especially Dean Roll. Thank you for coming out. She has also been very supportive of our efforts at the center. I trust that today's proceedings will not only be effective in terms of the areas we cover, but particularly in terms of the decisions we make. The last conference we had, it was 2 years ago, 1916, the conference took a major decision about research work that the center should do in the community to look at the economic strengths and challenges of our community and our assets in education, in health and well-being, and also in terms of the critical issue of gentrification. And I'm pleased to report that Dr. Waldado Stewart headed the research activities and pulled together 4 teams comprising faculty, students, and community thinkers and workers. And I'm sure at some time today he'll be presenting the results of our efforts. But I think it's probably a nice way for me to have ended my tour of duty at the Caribbean Research Center, that we were able to work with the community and produce the documents which he'll be sharing with you. God bless you all.
I want to thank Dr. Irish for his years of service to the CRC. And even now that, he's retired, we still get emails letting us know what we should do, correcting us when we're wrong, and inspiring us when we have an idea to forge forward. Thank you very much, Dr. Irish. I think without any further ado, I'm going to ask our Dean Rowe to return to this podium and introduce our keynote speaker, so we'll keep our schedule right on time. This is a season when our Congresswoman has to be out, making sure the community is aware of the work that she's doing so that her re-election is sure. So we want to do this part of our conference and get it over with. I know our public advocate is here, right? Honorable, please here, come on, give it up, give it up. As I said this morning, a voice speaking out loud to power. This is who she is. So, Dean Rowe, can you please come to the podium and introduce our keynote speaker, our Congresswoman, Dr. the Honorable Yvette Diane Clark.
I am humbled and grateful. Such a surprise to welcome to the podium the great Honorable Yvette Clark. I've heard her speak at several different occasions. She's on fire. I can't wait to hear what she has for us this time. I remember the last time she came, and we had just had the national election, or the last time I heard one of her speech, we had just had the national election, and she charged us, each one of us, to go out and do something. And I am looking forward to another charge. I can't wait to hear what she has to say for us today. And I just would ask you to put your hands together to bring this wonderful woman up to the podium.
Thanking Dr. Roll for that wonderful introduction, to Bishop Sylvita Hamilton Gonzalez, this morning's moderator, to our very distinguished panelists here gathered, to our public advocate for the City of New York, the Honorable Tish James, to Dr. Waldemar Stewart and his team at the Center for Caribbean Studies, the Caribbean Studies Center here at Medgar Evers College, to Dr. Una Clark, Mama, and to everyone here in attendance, a pleasant good afternoon or good morning to each and every one. It's still morning, right? Okay. Let me start by acknowledging those young people that serenaded us this morning. I wanted to do that because the marching band tradition of the Panamanian people has come over to New York, to Brooklyn, where so many have come from Panama and maintain the tradition. Those young people that you saw here, I don't know how many of them were born in Panama, but I would guarantee you that many of them were born here in the United States. And why is that important? It's an embrace. It's an embrace of the tradition, of the culture, from whence their parents, their grandparents have come. And that is what is so very unique, quite frankly, about New York City, New York State, and I would say Brooklyn in particular. Those traditions are maintained, and that is what makes our communities so strong. And the fact that we're able to share in one another's traditions makes us a very unique set of Americans in this country. And so I want to encourage those young people to pass that tradition on to their children and their children's children. But I'm here this morning to share with you a few remarks, and I hope that you will give me a little space and a little grace, because I have a cold. And if I have a sneeze, it could get nasty. So I'm trying to keep it together right now. It is fitting that we are here today honoring the life and legacy of the Honorable Shirley Chisholm, the former Congresswoman to represent the very district where this college sits. It also happens to be the same district where I was born and raised and have the privilege of representing in Washington, D.C. today. Today marks the 7th annual Shirley Chisholm Women's Empowerment Conference. And this conference was created by the women of Fairness, Justice, and Equity under the leadership of Dr. Una Clark and in partnership with Medgar Evers College and the Caribbean Research Center. And they felt that it was important for women to take charge. We were at a point where the census had been taken in New York State, and we had to now draw new districts for representation at the congressional and state level. And these women traveled across the state of New York to testify at various hearings that were being held by the Redistricting Commission to advocate for our community to maintain its leadership. That the community should not be broken up so that our ability to elect representatives that were reflective of our values were diminished, as they had been in the past, but that we would continue to build from strength to strength, as the Honorable Shirley Chisholm had commissioned us to do. So it is done in the name of Shirley Chisholm, a woman who paved the way for all women, but particularly Black women, to seek higher office. I want to once again thank the Caribbean Research Center here at Medgar Evers College and the Black women of Fairness, Equity, and Justice for co-sponsoring today's conference, and Bishop Gonzalez for the generous invitation that you've extended for me to speak here once again. This year's theme is Women's Self-Esteem, a light shining in the dark. And what a powerful and timely topic to highlight. We are at a critical juncture in our nation's history, and it seems like there's always a critical time, but I submit to you that this is a crisis time. It's a constitutional crisis for our nation. It is something that none of us have any orientation for, because when in your lifetime before have you ever witnessed Russians get involved in a campaign, a political season in the United States of America? We have no orientation for that. And we know that their influence and their propaganda campaign was targeted and very focused on electing someone other than Hillary Clinton. And that someone ended up being 45. I believe this is a time where Shirley Chisholm, if she were alive today, would actually shine. Social movements like #MeToo, #TimesUp, #Black Lives Matter are currently being led by Black women, are certainly movements that Shirley herself would have championed. Black women are both survivors of various trauma, but are also healers. We are advocates and we are allies. We are the ones calling offenders to the floor, to the mat, taking them to task, and holding them accountable for their actions. As Black women have done time and time again throughout American history, we are coming out in strong numbers to combat the threats of racism, sexism, xenophobia, gun violence, mass incarceration, sexual harassment, and political corruption, which is plaguing our civil society. Simply put, Black women are saving America. But that's nothing new. But that's nothing new, right? Sisters, I'm going to be real with you this morning. Is that all right? Yes. Well, all right? Because all I can do is be real. If we're going to talk about self-esteem of Black women, we must acknowledge the impact of the daily messages we are bombarded with that tell us that we are not brilliant, we're not beautiful, we're not powerful, and we're not capable. These messages have left an imprint on generations of Black women. But we are phenomenal women, are we not? Yes. Despite the negative imagery, we continue to rise. For every negative image, there's a Dr. Una Clark. There's a Shirley Chisholm. There's a Maya Angelou. There's a Tish James. There's a Tamika Mallory. There's a Maxine Waters. There's a Kamala Harris. And there's a Michelle Obama. Oh, yeah. And then there are those who labor in the vineyard who never are recognized or rewarded for what they do each and every day. But we are keenly aware of all that is being done by Black women to undergird our communities and by extension our nation. For every culture vulture, for every appropriator, there is a content creator. Today, I want to focus on how we can support one another and take care of ourselves in order to continue our path to success. For generations, Black women have been on the front lines of many battles. From the Civil Rights Movement to the Women's Rights March, we have quite literally put our bodies on the line to protect our men, our families, our communities, and one another. And as we often take for granted, but our magic is no longer for free. Now more than ever, Black women must focus on ourselves and connecting with one another. We must make ourselves the priority, and we must practice self-care. As my predecessor Shirley Chisholm once said, it is not female egotism to say that the future of mankind may very well be ours to determine. It's a fact. The words were true then and they are true now. The proof of our power is evidenced at the ballot box. Just think, in a time when we saw plastered all over our national news the fact that there was a U.S. senatorial candidate in Alabama who was a known pedophile, was backed by 45, and was on the verge of becoming a U.S. senator. Imagine that. But I think that, again, the moral compass was set by Black women of Alabama. Of Alabama, among all of the eligible voters, voted 98% for Doug Jones. Wow. 98%. That overperformance swung that deep red district into being blue and saved us from being a disgraced nation for electing a pedophile to the U.S. Senate. So these words were true then and they are true now. Black women carried Hillary through a contentious primary and supported her through a contentious general election. We used our votes to show this country that when it comes to safety and security of our children, our men, our jobs, our pocketbooks, we just don't play. No one could have done that but Black women. Imagine, there was so much propaganda going on, and it remains, because we have yet to set things in motion to protect ourselves from the cyber intrusion that Russia engaged in, unfortunately. And notwithstanding all of the propaganda that was out there, we remained focused and we remained determined and resolved to put people in place that will take on our concerns, that will look after our interests. And it is critical that we recognize the power that is within that. Because again, I tell people all the time, one thing I know about Black women is we do what we need to do, or as the young people say, we do the damn thing, and we keep it moving. We're not looking for accolades, we're not looking for rewards, we're looking to do what is right and to advance humankind. Humankind. And so, no one could have done that but Black women. However, we must be vigilant. We cannot rest. With 45 in office, our community is under constant attack. I share all the time, there is not an executive order that this man is not put forth that does not hold the 9th Congressional District right in its crosshairs. From the Muslim ban, to the rollback of DACA, to the rollback of TPS, to the unraveling of the Affordable Health Care Act, to the now tampering with the markets. Remember, our pensions and retirement are in that market. We tend to have less invested than most others, and we tend to have to live off of those funds. And so when you have someone says it may hurt now, but you'll get through this, that's from someone who's never hurt, someone who's a billionaire, still making money off of the federal government, and would look at the struggling of our communities and say it may hurt now, but we'll get through this. I don't trust him. And we should not. We should not be fooled by anything that this fool has to say. At the end of the day, the name of the game is redistribution of wealth. And if you have a penny in your pocket, they're trying to find a way to get their hands on it. Put you in debt so that you will have to pay them for the rest of your life. And if you don't finish paying, your children will have to pay them for the rest of their lives, and your grandchildren. That's what the tax scam was all about. The redistribution of wealth in a way in which it will have a profound impact on our communities for generations to come. So we must support one another and take care of ourselves. That means we have to stand up. We have to be vocal. We have to understand the implications of everything that is taking place in Washington, D.C. right now, and what it means for our future, and not be passive in the face of it. The only way that we can truly take care of ourselves is when we do the very serious hard work. We have lost many warriors of justice far too soon. I'm moved nearly to tears when I think about our sister Erica Garner, who dedicated her life to seeking justice after losing her father, Eric Garner, at the hands of the NYPD. She was only 27 years old. Fighting for justice literally killed her. The list of black women fighting for justice but gone too soon is too long. But as tragic and as heartbreaking as it is, I still believe, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that when we uplift one another and prioritize our self-care, we are unstoppable, and we will continue to rise. You know, as we think through our next steps, I like to bring to people some inkling of hope. And I think it resides in this room. I want you to know that what we're experiencing today will not last. The status quo under Donald Trump cannot last. Either Stormy gonna get him, or Mother's gonna get him. Might be Mr. Pruitt. There are just so many things that we know are not right and not normal in this situation. So the question is, are we going to be prepared for the breakthrough? For the reorganization of civil society? And what does that mean? What does it mean for us in our communities? We certainly have the talent, the skill, the ability, the intellect to be able to add value in very substantive ways in the reshaping, reformulation of civil society. We come at it strictly from an acknowledgement of our common humanity. I tell people what's happening in Washington, D.C., for those of you who are church attendants, it's wickedness in high places. It is wickedness in high places. And at the end of the day, we have to reset the moral compass and also make sure that we are not marginalized. Because believe me, there is going to be a reset All of the federal agencies are being flipped inside out right now. When you have Ben Carson, pediatric brain surgeon, running HUD. When you have Pruitt, an avowed anti-environmentalist, breaking down the Environmental Protection Agency. When you have Betsy DeVos, who made all of her money by privatizing public education. Across the board, we have seen this administration put people in place to deconstruct government. And at the same time, we are seeing record retirements from federal agencies. So all of that intellectual property, all of those skills, and those who have the historical context of our society will be gone, which means we have to rebuild. We have to rebuild. What will it look like? Will it be the status quo? I submit to you that we cannot go back. If anything this Trump administration has done for us, it has opened our eyes. We can never go to sleep again assuming that civil rights laws, voting rights laws, fair housing laws will be enforced unless we make it so. And so I want to encourage us today. This status quo cannot hold. We must be prepared to take advantage, insert ourselves, and as Shirley says, if they don't have a seat for us at the table, bring our vote. Make sure that the next generation inherits from us a nation much greater. Because at the end of the day, I can tell you, growing up here in central Brooklyn, in the wake of the civil rights movement, I could never believe that I would reach the 5th decade of my life and see neo-Nazis marching through Charlottesville. With the okay from the President of the United States. That's right. So, if you're not awake, wake up and stay awake. In closing, there is no better way to maintain our self-esteem than to support one another and to take the time to take care of ourselves. We receive negative messages about who we are each and every day, but when you know who you are, you have a right. You have the right people around you affirming who you are. There's nothing you can't do. And that's why we established in Washington, D.C., myself, Congresswoman Bonnie Watson-Coleman, from New Jersey, Congresswoman Robin Kelly of Illinois, the first ever congressional caucus on black women and girls. We are going to step out of the shadows. We are going to lay bare all of the obstacles to the growth and development of black women and girls in our nation. We're going to make it plain that the face of every concern is a black face. So that whether it is being able to access capital for small businesses or it's harassment on the job, we are in those numbers. And we expect to see policy changes that enhance our growth and development. I want to remind each of you that you have a dynamic example of a powerful, self-actualized, independent woman in the Honorable Shirley Chisholm. Yes. Google her. Find out more. Do a deep dive. It's important that we recognize what Shirley Chisholm faced in her time and how, despite all of that, she has become a national icon that we all look up to. Her legacy becomes more and more important as time passes. And I am proud to have sponsored Bill H.R. 4856 at such a time as this. Senator Kamala Harris has introduced a companion bill in the Senate, and we are on our way to ensuring that Shirley Chisholm is memorialized with a statue in the U.S. Capitol into perpetuity. Shirley Chisholm has changed the culture of United States Congress, and in so doing, the world. The fruits of her labor are evident from the halls of Congress and in this very room. I encourage each of you to invoke a spirit of a fiery, fearless Shirley Chisholm, a woman who knew her worth regardless of what others said about her, who used her womanly power to stand up for the things she believed in and yielded results. Or a well-respected woman, a woman who embodied light in the darkness. So we are quite honored, and we should feel quite pleased that we sit here in the heart of where Shirley Chisholm began her leadership. And let us take a page from her life to be able to share with our girls, our boys, what it means to have leadership in the feminine and how we respect that. And we stand shoulder to shoulder to have a wholesome and a strong, enlightened civil society and community. I want to thank you all for coming out to be a part of what has become a tradition here, the 7th year of this conference, and encourage you to see my office as a resource. Any way in which I can be supportive of you, your families, your interests and concerns, know that I am there. And when I'm in Washington, D.C., you should know it is not out of sight, it's out of mind. It is you that I'm fighting for. You know, when my colleagues see me coming down the hall, especially during the immigration debates, they say, oh my God, here comes that lady from Flatbush again. And I want them to say that until we get the breakthrough that we deserve. God bless you and enjoy the rest of the day. If I didn't take the time to acknowledge that we have been joined by our illustrious councilwoman and majority leader in the New York City Council, Councilwoman Lori Combo, and her little bundle of joy. I now have the distinct honor and privilege of acknowledging and honoring a woman of great distinction. You know, oftentimes we take a lot for granted. And I want to just highlight for you the fact that there is only one black woman in the city of New York that holds a citywide seat. Prior to her, there was none. There was none. And so I don't want us to take our public advocate for granted. She is a trailblazer. I kind of know how she feels a little bit because I'm the only black woman in the congressional delegation for the state of New York. Diversity and inclusion, isn't it great to have someone who shares your experience at the table? Yes. You know, we forget that sometimes because we take so much for granted. And for so long in the history of our state and our nation, it was the guys, as my colleague Moore likes to say it, the guys who were pale and stale that ran everything. And so we are very fortunate once again. I served with this woman. We've been on the battlefield together for community empowerment for, I hate to say it, Tish, it's decades now.
No, don't say that.
We served in the New York City Council together. she's always been a firebrand. You know, I got this more diplomatic tone. Tisha knock it down so that it can be rebuilt. And rebuilt with her imprint and her stamp on it. So I wanted to acknowledge her along with this program today for all that she is doing and has done throughout her lifetime to lift up the interests of our community, to make it plain, to shape legislation, to give advisement to other elected officials, to give guidance in a time when we were just trying to make our way through as newly elected Black officials in the city of New York. And so to Tish James, I get to do this. And Lori, could you join us? Oh, yes. And Bill Howard. Okay, let me describe it. This is a congressional proclamation presented to our public advocate, Tish James. It chronicles some of her achievements. We couldn't chronicle all of her achievements because it would be several pages long and we wanted to look cute. So, to my sister, Tish, this will encourage you, not to tell you that you've made it, but that you've got a ways to go. And we know that with your voice, our communities are secure, and we appreciate all that you have done to raise up our communities. Thank you.
Wait. Ooh. Yeah. Dr. Clark. So we're going to present the Shirley Chisholm Award that was given in 2016 to Congresswoman Clark, and she will now pass it on to our public advocate for 2018, Mr. Bill Howard. Will, pass it to our Congresswoman, who will pass it to Dr. There you go. So we pass it down, and then pass it around, and then we'll give it, and then we have Shirley, we have, I want to touch it. Yes, and I want to tell you this, I want to tell you the story about, this is a 24-karat coated piece that we asked them to put together to design for us. Joyce and I, 2 years ago. And up until yesterday morning, we weren't sure that it was coming, but prayers made it happen. Right. So Dr. Clark, you pass it on. Bill will say a few words and pass it over. Wow. And then we do have our Lori Cumbro here and my baby Joy. Yeah.
Thank you very much for all that 24-karat gold is being passed around. I'm hoping that it end up at my chair. But just a few words, well, actually 3 words. One on the relationship of Congresswoman Clark and myself regarding the legacy of the late Shirley Chisholm. Congresswoman Clark mentioned briefly that a piece of legislation had been entered for a statue in the House of Representatives. But what she did not tell you was that she has 70 United States congressmen and women to sign off on producing this legislation, and 16 United States senators, including our senator from New York, Chuck Schumer. I think that pursuing Shirley Chisholm's legacy through Congresswoman Clark is one of the things that will make my job a lot easier. I met Shirley Chisholm in 1964, and I've worked almost 45 years for Shirley Chisholm, and one of the worst days of my life was in 2005 when I had to announce that she was dead. Since that time, working with Congresswoman Clark and, of course, the public advocate and all of our legislators here, we've been able to get the United States postage stamp, which took 11 years. Presidential Medal of Freedom for the late Shirley Chisholm. That took some time, and I think that this statue, when it becomes available and it's announced and all the things that go along with it in the House of Representatives, hopefully, I understand today some 5,000 invitations were sent out for people to come to this conference. Maybe some of those 5,000 people will understand that it is necessary and required that they spend some time and energy to sort of keep this thing going.
Yes. Yes.
One of the things that the Congresswoman raised with me last week, and it's going to be on Channel 1 on the 8th, so just look at your channel, and we're talking about New York 1.
Channel 8.
Some of the things that is happening related to Shirley Chisholm and housing and gentrification and all the other things. And I had the opportunity to sit with the Congresswoman on that day. And on that day, I was told that 8,000 women have registered to run for political office.
All right.
So earlier, women should run for political office, but there are 8,000 women registered to run for public office as for the congressional and senatorial in Washington. So that should be a good thing. And lastly, I want to talk about my good friend, Letitia James. When Shirley Chisholm died in 2005, I was wondering what was I going to do in order to protect her legacy in some way. And the black elected officials came together, including Letitia James, and say we have what it takes in order to move Shirley Chisholm's legacy forward. So I must say that on behalf of people that are interested in the black community, you better pay some attention to Letitia James.
That's right. Yes. Yes.
I know that when people are crying out in the community about this or that, first thing I do is turn on TV and I see Letitia James. And I'm very pleased to say that whatever she decides to do, as long as I have some energy, I will be supportive, very supportive to whatever she decides to do, because I know that with her energy and intellect, she will be able to travel this entire city as the only black elected official citywide and do what is required to keep the Shirley Chisholm name alive. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill Howard, for that those sentiments and those touching remarks. I want to thank, of course, Mama Clark, whose shoulders we all stand on. Yeah. I want to thank my sister and my friend and my colleague, Congresswoman Yvette Clark. Another round of applause. Let me just say that, and this is Tish James talking, Letitia James talking. This has nothing to do with any of the individuals who are putting on this event. I want all of you out there to tell the person who is so drunk with power that they think that they can run against my friend Yvette Clark, that they've got another thing coming. That's right. Disabuse them of this notion that you can run against my sister, who is the only woman in New York State in the congressional in the congressional delegation in the state of New York. So I believe in democracy. I believe that everyone has a right to run. But I also believe in a defeat. And I also believe in sending a loud message, a resounding defeat against those who would come against someone who is a champion, who stands in the shoes of Shirley Chisholm. So let's be clear. And of course, to our council member, Lori Cumbo, and to our beautiful son, Prince, we want to thank her for all that she is doing in protecting this community and this district, standing up for what is just and for what is right, and for doing it with high heels and with a new baby. And the person who continues to pray for us each and every time, the person who we go to and whose shoulders we cry on, and the person who girds us with the strength of our Lord and our Savior, Jesus Christ. We've got to give it up for Bishop Gonzalez. And I don't want to preach this morning, but you know that, as they say, really the only thing that matters at the end of the day is our Lord and our Savior, Jesus Christ, right? It's our faith, and that's going to get us through these difficult times. And so I want to thank the Caribbean Research Center and Dr. Walter Stewart, and I want to thank Dr. Joanne Royal for putting this event today, and for the organization Black Women for Fairness, Equity, and Justice. It's great to be here at this moment, and at this conference celebrating women's empowerment and the Caribbean American communities. But my heart is heavy this morning, and I'm going to depart from my comments and talk to you just a minute, just a sentence about what is happening in Crown Heights today. Yes. And so I think it would be remiss if we did not mention the shooting of this young man, yes, which is blocks from here. Yes. I think it would not be leadership if we did not say something about this young man who obviously was suffering from mental illness. And so the issue is we really should focus on our mental health system in the city and the state of New York, which has failed him. It failed him dramatically. Someone who everyone knew was suffering from a problem, but someone who unfortunately did not get any help. So we've got to fix our mental health system. We've got to make it easier for individuals to get help for their loved ones. It's unfortunate this man was on the streets and everyone knew it and he couldn't get any help, either because he refused to or because people just didn't know where to go. We have a responsibility to demand of government that they respond to the needs of people in trouble. And clearly this gentleman needed some assistance. Secondly, when it comes to individuals who are suffering from mental health challenges, the police are not the answer. Right. Let me say that again. I applaud NYPD. I defend NYPD. They've done a wonderful job. But they've got a lot of their on their hands. And they should not be in the position of being mental health professionals. And so we obviously need to make sure that we have the appropriate individuals who respond to similar crises, and that we allow police to police and not be mental health professionals. And that's what we really should do, and that's the discussion that we should have going forward. And so I thank all of you for allowing me to say that, and may we continue to keep the family in our prayers. And I thank all of you. So, it's no secret that
every square inch of New York City has been enriched by the many contributions of the Caribbean community. And I know I may leave a group out, but I'm going to try to capture everybody. Trinidadians, are you in the room?
3 of them. Okay. Haitians, ça passe? Okay, 1. Yes, the rest are on their way. Don't worry. Asians, where are you? Okay. People from St. Vincent's and Guyana? Barbadians? Okay, Panamanians? Franklin Avenue is in the house. Okay. Jamaica! You raised your hand twice. Okay. I think I covered most of the groups. But I really want to thank all of you for your intellect. I want to thank all of you for your significant cultural and economic impact through the city of New York. And I want to thank you for giving birth to Shirley Chisholm. Shirley Chisholm obviously was a woman who did not take no for an answer, and she embodied self-esteem, fearlessness, and strength. And she's a case study in courage. She was an immovable force powered by conviction in her work and her belief in herself. And she was a rare kind of politician who cared about doing what was right and not what was politically expedient. And that's why we've got to talk about hard and difficult issues like individuals who are suffering from mental illness. That's why we've got to talk about the issue of gentrification. We've got to talk about the crisis in affordable housing. We've got to talk about how we have lost a significant number of black people in the borough of Brooklyn, and how, given the changing demographics in the city of New York, the question is, where are people of color going to go? Where will they be located? And we have seen this mass exodus, particularly in African Americans, who are leaving New York and going back down south. And the question is, Caribbeans are doubling up and tripling up. Are you returning back to the Caribbean? No. Or are you moving out to the suburbs? No. Pennsylvania. Are you moving to Pennsylvania? But clearly in New York City, rent is too damn high, and we're having a difficult time capturing and maintaining and retaining people of color. And the question that we must pose at this conference is, what can we do to continue to grow the middle class? What can we do to maintain families of color in the city of New York? What can we do to address the fact that wages are stagnated? People are just not making enough money in the city. What can we do to address the feminization of poverty? More and more women who are living in poverty. What can we do to maintain our base of support? Because the reality is, in the absence of that base, there will be no Letitia James. There will be no Yvette Clarke. There will be no Laurie Cumbo. There will be no cultural institutions and museums that reflect the diaspora. And those are real concerns. We are fighting over blocks and neighborhoods and communities and development. But the question is, are we developing for the future of this community and communities that look like this community? And the answer, my friend, is no. And so going forward, we need to plan. And I am so glad we're having this conference today, because we've got to plan appropriately, and we've got to provide for individuals on the ground as opposed to other individuals. And that's what's really key. As you go around the city, you will see, you know, I think I've only met in my travels maybe 2 or 3 people who were ever able to get apartments through this lottery, the affordable housing lottery. I've yet to meet any people. And when you do get an apartment, they're this small. Right? They're tiny. So we've got to talk about that issue. You know that Shirley Chisholm was unbought and unbossed, and she was never afraid to speak her mind. So if you don't mind, I've got to speak my mind as well. You know, we are at a challenging time, as our Congresswoman mentioned. We've got someone in the White House who unfortunately has lost his mind, someone who is an outright racist, someone who's a sexist, someone who doesn't believe in intelligence or education or reading a book or reading memos, and someone who is anti-immigrant. We know that on TPS for Haitians, he's rejected it. On TPS for Liberians, he's rejected it. He called countries foul words. And so we've got to fight back against this. And we know as we approach redistricting in the census that this administration would like all of us to be questioned on our citizenship as opposed to being counted. It's a form of intimidation and suppression. That's all that it is. And so we are hopeful that when we go to court that we will be successful in declaring it unconstitutional and illegal, because that's what it is. And it's important that everyone, when you get the census, fill it out, because it's about resources, critical resources that we need, and it's also about representation in our Congress. And so it's really critically important that we fill out the census and we not be intimidated. And lastly, let me just say to all of my attorneys out there, particularly in Brooklyn, yesterday ICE went into court in downtown Brooklyn and arrested an immigrant. He was undocumented. He was going into court to resolve a case. When his case was resolved, he was arrested in the courthouse by ICE. This is going to have a chilling effect on individuals who seek justice in court. Not just individuals who have cases in court, but individuals who want to get orders of protection, individuals who are witnesses in cases, individuals who are cooperating with the district attorney's office or have a conversation with the police. They can no longer enter into our courthouses because they're fearful that they may be stopped by ICE and detained. It happened in the Bronx. It happened in Brooklyn. It happened in Manhattan. And that's why I'm so glad that the attorneys in Brooklyn decided to engage in a protest, and they marched outside of, they left the courtroom in protest. We have got to stand together. This is not the time to sit back and think everything is going to be okay, or sit back and think that Congresswoman Clark is going to solve all of our problems. We've got to be on the front line. We've got to raise our voices in the spirit of Shirley Chisholm. We've got to speak truth to power. We've got to fight back. We've got to fight them in court. And most importantly, we've got to fight them at the ballot box. And so I urge all of you, and particularly black women, as the Congresswoman mentioned, we are saving our democracy. We did it in Virginia. We did it in New Jersey. We did it in the Confederacy of the South. It was black women who made the difference. And this November, when you go and vote in quiet dignity, remember who you are. Remember what runs through your veins and your DNA. It's Shirley Chisholm. So no matter how long the line is, vote and bring 10 friends with you and send that crazy man in Washington packing and take back our country.
Can we give our public advocate another round of applause? And I want to say to you, I'm going to piggyback on what Mr. Bill Howard said to our public advocate. Whatever you decide to do, I am fully behind you. You notice that our public advocate started really calm, right? Right? And I was thinking, what's going on? There was a moment I was like, what happened? But you know, there are many things happening in our community, and when you have passion for your people, you know their pain or your pain. And I know the pain because I have a nephew that is mentally ill. And I keep telling my students, some of them are here, and my ministers, I don't call the police. Because if I call the police, he might not be alive. And that's true. Something needs to be done. That's another conversation. Yes. We have Dr. Witter here, one of our trustees that's visiting us. Give a round of applause. And of course, our council member, Lori Cumbo, Majority Leader in the City Council, her baby Prince and my baby Joy. Ever since she was pregnant, I told her that. That's a baby Joy. So, I want to thank our Congresswoman, and I want to thank our public advocate, and I want to thank all of the officials that sat here and kept the chairs until we were ready. I want to thank Shirley Chisholm, in the spirit of Shirley Chisholm, that I hope we're going to take forward as we leave this place. Dr. Stewart, you want us to get ready for the photo op? Okay, so we need a photo op moment. I thought I saw Jody. Jody. Am I missing anyone? Jody just came. That's one of our panelists here. Okay, so they're going to set up for the photo. I really wish I had a song I could sing while we're doing that. Dr. Stewart would like the steering committee.
We're going to have our chairs standing, and then we have some other people sitting. And there our people who made this happen sitting. And then we want to have you all standing in front, and the photographer will be, two photographers will be around 4 or 5 rows back, so that we capture everyone that's in the room. Will the dance people stand behind the chair, please?
So I won't be singing. What's your name? Nicole Guy will be singing. while we're setting up, right?
While the singing is going on, please let's get up here. Anna Walker, please get up here. Esmeralda, please get up here. Come on. We have to move fast. We're going to be silent while the singing is taking place.
Joyce, let's go. Dr. Irish.
My name is Nicole Guide. Around 12 years ago, I funded a nonprofit called Hope's Alive Inc., where we do educational theater. And this song is called Thanks and Praise. We can't survive without a higher power.
We want you up here, please. And Dr. Yvette Clark, we want you up here, please.
Okay. We can't survive without a higher power. And this song is called Thanks and Praise, written by my brother Don Guy. For in my times of trouble, He's been with me throughout my struggles. Lift me up when I was down. Turn my world around. For in my desperation, He subsides my obsession. When my enemies encamp over me, He wouldn't let them be. So I will give thanks and praise to the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, conquering Lion. Yes, I will give thanks and praise to the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, conquering Lion. So he who have ears, let them hear, and he who have eyes, let them see. Listen to the Lord's words, and miracles will be. Listen to the Lord's words, and miracles will be. Like a bird in a tree, He set me free from pain and misery. Now all I know is happiness. Babylon, you're the weakest. Now all I know is happiness. Babylon, you're the weakest. Let's unite, brothers and sisters. No fuss, no fight. The bigger the congregation, we'll defeat the oppressor. I will give thanks and praise to the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, conquering Lion. Yes, once I was lost and all alone, getting into different situations. To the Lord I pray, to guide and protect I each day from what the evil ones do and say. Oh yes, Jah angels protect us in every way from what the evil ones do and say. Oh yes, Jah angels protect us in every way. Let's unite, brothers and sisters. No fuss, no fight. The bigger the congregation, we'll defeat the oppressor. I will give thanks and praise to the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, conquering Lion. So he who have ears, let them hear, and he who have eyes, let them see. Listen to the Lord's words, and miracles will be. Listen to the Lord's words, and miracles will be. Like a bird in a tree, he set me free. Thank you.
Where the ministers?
5 minutes.
Where the clergy? All clergy and the little ones, so that we can remember the children were here. Come on, all the kids, all the students, let's go. Come on, Mr. Rice. Come on, Mr. Metcalf.
Oh, good. Okay.
Take a picture.
I used to be.
That's right. Thank you to the Drum and Bugle International Band Association. Give them a round of applause, please.
No one else wants to come? Okay.
Miss Jones, come on quick.
So come up behind me, please. Come up behind me. We have a go behind your feet. Go. Yeah. Hello. Lunch will be in the dining room on the third floor. You either go up the stairs, that's the hard way, or take the elevator to the third floor. And then, I'm sorry, the second floor. Take the elevator to the second floor where we will have lunch. With the elevator to the second floor where we will have fun. Lunch. I expect everybody that's in the room to be up at lunch on the second floor. Either walk up or take the elevator.
Yes, yes, yes.